Thank you everyone so much for coming. We're thrilled to have you here at this very special Plastic Solutions event featuring Plastic Bank co-founder Shaun Frankson and Harvard Business School professor George Serafeim. We really appreciate you making the trek in this very miserable weather, and we might have a few stragglers still coming in, but we'd like to get the discussion started. So to begin, we will have Terry Tempest Williams, writer in residence at Harvard Divinity School. Thank you so much, Terry, for being here.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming to this event of the Constellation Project, sponsored by the Divinity School, by the Center for the Environment, the Planetary Health Alliance, and the College of Arts and Humanities, and the Business School, which is part of this. I'm Terry Tempest Williams. Last night we held the space of beauty, awe, grief, and love in watching Chris Jordan's film, Albatross. But perhaps one of the most important things that we did was share in a communal silence after the film that gave us time to reflect and ponder and think about what we had just seen, experienced, the power of Albatross and our complicity. I was so moved when Professor McCarthy said, "We touch plastic and we touch Albatross," that interconnection is absolutely key to what it means to be human with all life on the planet. Coming from the Divinity School, I think about faith a lot, and how faith is the centerpiece of an interconnected life. And when I think about the kinds of things that Sam Myers is talking about with planetary health, and certainly the scientists and those here at the Center for the Environment, it is about that interconnectivity. I also think a lot about hope, and I honestly believe that faith without actions is dead. In the same way, there is no hope without action. And I think today we're going to see that action element, and that faith, hope, action are in partnership with each other. And we hold that literally in our hands. There was that image, that last terrifying image for me anyway, of where Chris is holding that plastic so that there can be no doubt about the cause of the death of those beautiful great white birds. And we hold, wild mercy is in our hands. And I think today the gift is that we're going to look at solutions. We didn't talk about that last night, and the Plastic Bank is one of those solutions. And it's the continuation of this same conversation where art and activism meet, where ethics, science, and technology meet with real people in real places in real time. Gestures matter. Solutions are possible. And Shaun Frankson is our guide. So we couldn't be more excited. Thank you.
Shaun Frankson is the co-founder of the Plastic Bank, which buys plastic waste from individuals at an above-market rate to incentivize its collection, recycles it, and then sells it to other organizations at a premium as a social plastic. This innovative triple bottom line social enterprise makes plastic waste a currency in developing countries to simultaneously reduce global poverty and plastic pollution. Shaun is a master strategist and growth hacker. He finds ways to manipulate incentive structures to global problems. He was named an Ashoka Emerging Innovator and received the Sustainia Community Award at COP21 in Paris. The Plastic Bank also recently won the United Nations Momentum for Change Award in Planetary Health at COP23 in Bonn, Germany. After Shaun presents on Plastic Bank and its innovative solutions to address global plastic pollution, we'll hear from Professor George Serafeim, who will serve as a discussant in this exploration of the role of corporations and social enterprises in advancing planetary health, which looks at how global environmental change impacts human health and development. George Serafeim is the Jakursky Family Associate Professor of Business Administration at Harvard Business School. He's taught courses in the MBA, Executive Education, and doctoral programs. and he's currently teaching the elective course, Reimagining Capitalism, Business and Big Problems in the MBA curriculum. He has presented his research in over 60 countries around the world, has been recognized with numerous awards, and is one of the most popular business authors, according to rankings of the Social Science Research Network. Professor Serafeim's research focuses on measuring, driving, and communicating corporate performance and social impact, and he serves as a director or advisor to organizations that aim to create both economic and social value. To kick off the event, we're going to start with a short film that Shaun will present to us to contextualize the discussion. Thank you.
David Katz and Shaun Frankson have formed the world's first plastic bank.
They've created the world's first plastic bank.
Will not only keep dangerous plastics out of our oceans, but will also help people in need.
How about turning plastic into currency? David Katz and Shaun Frankson are the founder and co-founder of something called the Plastic Bank.
As widely available as it is, plastic remains one of the least recycled substances on Earth. Because nearly every piece of plastic ever made still exists today, much of it is now littering the oceans or ending up in landfills. A Vancouver startup wants to change that by cleaning up waterways and helping the world's poor in the process.
This will change the world.
Pickers are paid a fair wage for their raw materials, giving them a reliable source of income. The plastic bank then sells the cleaned and sorted plastic to manufacturers. The concept is much like fair trade coffee.
We can make plastic too valuable to be thrown away, because when we see it as waste, it's treated as waste. But when we add value and reveal value, so this is where we came up with the idea of turning plastic waste into a currency and being able to have corporations use social plastic, which is an ethically sourced plastic that helped improve someone's life, but also kept plastic from coming into the ocean. Because one of the things that we learned is often ocean plastic started on the land and it was pushed into the rivers and waterways. And that's how it ends up in the ocean. So if we look at the root cause of how do we stop it from coming into the ocean,
and it really kind of closes the loop. It allows the consumer to expect or demand that corporations use a plastic that's been ethically sourced and improved the lives of people and kept it from entering the ocean. And then corporations meet that demand.
And these BC businessmen hope to change the world by opening one anywhere there's poverty and an abundance of plastic.
Revolution! Here I come! Whether you want it or not. Better must come one day. One day we shall be free from all the shackles and the chains keeping us under. Someday there will be no compromising, we can't be imprisoned forever. One day humanity will revolute, politicians will be outnumbered. Someday the whole truth will be revealed. Yeah, there is a time for everything, where one starts and other ends. This new generation cannot be tamed. Minds of the people's been detained and it can't remain the same. This is the new era, everyone is calling for changes. Dynasties and empires comes and goes, all rulers ruling with one common cause. We can't be held down no more, so I know the slave masters, them off, we let we go. One day there will be equal rights and justice for peacekeepers on the streets. Now someday preachers and priests will have no say, prisoners of legion shall release. Yo, one day Mother Nature will revolute, all the wicked will be sunk under. Someday the blind will start to see. Yo, we know in these last days evil can prosper. The traps where them set up will cease to capture. Woe on to those who is causing disaster. Only the few shall be together after. Pie, pie, get ready. Better must come one
All right, I always like to put just a little bit of context because not everyone's seen what plastic looks like in different places of the world. Not everyone's seen what some of these communities look like. And it really kind of brings a lot into light. And, plastic's something that's been on my mind for a while. It's really been in the media quite a bit. And, we've really just looked at ways of why this is happening. I mean, plastic truly is poisoning our oceans. It's poisoning our food chains. Now, if you can imagine, if we filled this entire room with plastic bottles, that's the amount of plastic going into the ocean every single minute of every single day. And it's only getting worse. But I am here as an optimistic person working on solutions to tell you why I have absolute faith that this is a problem we can solve. And when we look at where the problem comes from, it's interesting. We call it a plastic problem. But when you think about it, plastic doesn't grow legs and magically fulfill a lifelong dream to go sit on a beach or swim in an ocean. Plastic doesn't reproduce and make new plastics. Plastic isn't a plastic problem. It really is a human problem, and it's a problem that humans can solve. As long as we look at it in the right lens, because we can't have band-aid solutions to solve global problems. And, recently there's been a lot of headlines that kind of scare me. They've identified that there's these machines that if we just put them in the ocean, and once the plastic goes all the way through the ocean, we'll be able to solve our ocean plastic problem. And that's a mindset that always scares me, because we need so many solutions to get rid of the ocean plastic. But when we consider scooping it out at the very end, the solution, I think that's approaching it from the wrong angle. When we look at it, we like this childhood metaphor that if you were to walk into the kitchen, the sink was overflowing, water pouring everywhere, piling up on the floor, and all you had is a plunger and a mop. What do you do first? And the answer's simple. You turn off the tap. If we want to solve our ocean plastic problem, it's not about scooping it out. It's about turning off the tap. That's something completely in our control, and that's the way we have to get started. So we started to explore where the plastic's coming from, and about 80% of ocean plastic comes from developing countries where they have almost no existing waste management systems. They dump the plastic onto the ground, into the riverbanks. And this is a picture I took in Peru. And as soon as it rains, all the plastic gets flooded directly into the river. So whether it's thrown into the river or the canals, the ocean almost always ends up being where away means. And when we throw something away, it has to go somewhere. And it just always ends up being the ocean. And these kind of scenes are so common. This is the Philippines. Philippines and Southeast Asia is one of the leading sources of ocean plastic on the planet. And this is a country very close to heart for me. And this is Haiti. And this is really where we've started our foundations of driving solutions to stop ocean plastic. And the biggest mindset when we've started to look at how do we do this, I'll explain with one more metaphor. If you were on an island and there was bars of gold, but no one traded for gold, no one wanted the gold, no banks would give you anything for gold, no vendors would give you anything for gold, you would just look at this gold and consider it garbage. You'd consider it not even worth picking up because conceptually you'd see no value in gold. But ironically, gold has value, plastic has value. Actually, pound for pound, plastic is worth more than steel. And the ironic thing is when we call plastic garbage, we treat it as garbage. But when we can reveal the value in plastic, we can have it known that plastic can be hope, plastic can be opportunity. Plastic should never be thrown into the ocean because so much of the world can use that value to improve their life. And this is where we started to find a system of how do we make plastic too valuable to ever enter the ocean. And we started studying recycling around the world. Now, most countries don't have giant recycling trucks, giant recycling facilities. What actually happens is there's a base way of organic recycling, and it's usually a terrible term, but it's often called waste pickers or scavengers. And this is the way most of the world's basic recycling works.
And we started to study what was working and what wasn't. And we spent a lot of time in Colombia and Peru, again, looking, what are the true pain points? And we really identified just two things that were just so important. One is that plastic is a very complex industry in that it's usually directly correlated to the price of petroleum. And a little while ago, we hit peak oil, and then the price of oil went down by a lot. And it's almost the world's dirty little secret, but 90% of the world's recycling disappeared when the price of oil got low enough that it just became cheaper for companies to buy new plastic than to buy recycled plastic. And as we were studying different regions and learning what was working, one thing that became abundantly clear is the world's poor, who is involved in plastic recycling, is mostly an uneducated, illiterate, and has no concept to understand that there's a correlation between a drop in oil prices and why plastic's worth more one day or less the other. In these cases, it's quite often perceived that if I showed up to a location and got told I'm not buying any plastic or plastic's half the price, it would be treated as a personal insult, that it's just someone trying to diminish me, someone's trying to take advantage of me. And as soon as someone feels like that, they will completely leave an industry that they feel is just wrought with people trying to take advantage. And this is where we realize the only way global recycling works is if there's stability and consistency in the amount of return that someone gets for collecting. And really, again, when we look at just that base commodity price that plastic sells at, it's often a supply chain trying to get the lowest price possible at whatever cost. And that cost usually comes at the people collecting plastic. And when we really were exploring what the solution needed to do, again, we can't have a world where people see waste pickers and people see scavengers. We need a world where we can dignify plastic recycling, where we can have communities celebrating that there are champions helping to clean these communities. That should be a pride point. And when we looked at how do we create a root cause to stop ocean plastic, it was really on that foundation of bringing price stability, price consistency, that little bit extra value right into the hands of the collector, and doing it in a way that we absolutely dignify and really gamify the dignification of recycling, because this is the only way we can globally make plastic a basic earned income for anyone on the planet to get the necessities that they need. So we started getting really creative. So in Haiti, we launched right when plastic hit its absolute worst price ever, and it really, in a positive way, just forced absolute creativity of what other value could people get for exchanging plastic. So in Haiti, people can come in, exchange plastic for different types of plastic, different colors, different types. It's all sorted, and they get a different reward for the different types. But we really introduced, instead of it just being a plastics recycling, to really have a full community center, really market style, where anyone can get shampoo, they can get the food. And we started to get even more creative. We realized, again, in Haiti, 70% of the population is unemployed. Everyone has a cell phone, yet someone making $1 a day is still paying 20 cents to charge a cell phone, which is a huge hit. So we introduced solar power to our locations where someone could come in and trade bottles for solar power cell phone charging. Or again, another epidemic that they have is the fact that everyone cooks with charcoal. They're burning the trees, almost 90-something% of the forest is gone. So we brought in sustainable cooking fuels made from sugar canes. And we looked at how could someone exchange plastic for cooking fuels, for necessities. And this is how we bring it where it stops being something that only plastic collectors collect plastic, but where a community works together to collect plastic to improve lives. Because I don't need to be a full-time collector, but if I want to charge my phone, I save my bottles and I don't throw them away. If I want to get my cooking fuel, I save my plastic, I don't throw it away. And this is how we start to remove it from even being our solution or a collector's solution, but really making it a community. And this is something that communities are starting to celebrate. When we were first in Haiti, when we opened the center, the mayor showed up with a ribbon-cutting ceremony and proudly stated that this will now be the cleanest community in Haiti. And one of the biggest lessons that we learned where it's so important to realize, and again, just why pollution is so abundant in so many countries. When we have this absolute low level of poverty, and someone's just striving to survive for the day, it is honestly impossible for someone to care about the planet. And it's not that they're a bad person, it's just a basic hierarchy of needs. If your most basic fundamental needs aren't taken care of, all you can think about is eating for the day, all you can think about is feeding a family. And this is when we always call it, again, making plastic a currency, because anyone can now at least have that base income to fulfill their basic needs, to provide for their family, to send children to school. And these are programs that we continue to roll out. So just to make sure it's super clear how the process works, a collector picks up plastic from the environment, they bring it to one of the centers, it's sorted by color, by type, by weight, it's weighed, and they're rewarded by either cash, items, or soon we're introducing a safe digital token-based currency where people can have savings. And we take all that plastic and we sell it directly to large corporations who use millions upon millions of pounds of plastic every year. And we do it intentionally in a way that we can scale around the planet. And as we continue to look at these models, that it's nice to set up something in a community that helps, but one community at a time doesn't change the world. We can't stop ocean plastic doing it manually, doing it ourselves. The only way we can stop ocean plastic is to literally scale this everywhere on the planet where we have poverty, where we have plastic waste, and that is a huge amount of the planet. But all people, or I should say most people in those areas, still have cell phones that can run apps. People who don't have water, don't have electricity, still have a Facebook account nowadays. And it's an amazing opportunity, more than anything, that instead of needing to set up giant infrastructure, bring in huge facilities, our model works that anyone with a cell phone and a scale can start one of our plastic bank locations. And we start addressing a lot of issues that come with the base of the pyramid. So one, as we make communities more prosperous, and if people know that there's more cash on locations, or people know that someone's coming at a location and will walk away with cash, you start introducing risk and danger. But when we have a digital reward system where we can introduce our own token-based currency, we can have the world's unbankable, who can't qualify for a savings account, store the value that they earn through recycling. And the more people we have using these systems, the more we can have people running shops, people running schools, accept this token-based currency, and even have the ability to safely cash it out whenever it's convenient. But again, with technology into the hands of the world's poor, we can safely not just give the value, but when someone asks, how do I know this impact's happening? If a corporation's buying the plastic, how do I know that people are getting what we're promising? This becomes an app that allows us to completely verify exactly the impact received by the collectors. So we use blockchain and hyperledger technology, which I'm not going to go into the whole tech talk side, but is really just one of the most trusted ways to instantly approve and record an exchange of value. So this is really one of the world's first systems that we can be a conduit for different forms of value. So if there's things that people need to earn, like education, recycling, health insurance, anyone can earn it by recycling. And we can have the opportunities that when we want to have programs to provide tuition for students and for families, we can actually create our own digital token system, which works like a coupon, that recycle this type of plastic, and it can go directly towards healthcare, directly towards education. And this is how we can completely reveal value and safely transfer value into the hands of people in incredibly vulnerable regions that can be very difficult to work in. And this is one where we've really gathered the world together, where it's not us, it's not our partners. So much of what we've done is having the average person ask for this solution. So one of the first things when we created the idea for the plastic bank, we started doing a lot of PR and media, talking about our vision of how we could stop ocean plastic. And we've had just a huge drive of people asking, how can I help? And when people came to us and said, how can I help? The first thing we said was, you can help us prove the demand. So we've actually had over 1 million people on Facebook ask for social plastic. Now, they're not liking our company or liking the concept. We're asking them to just like our Facebook page to prove the demand for corporations to use social plastic. We then have thousands upon thousands of people tweeting and asking on social media, calling companies out, why aren't you using social plastic? And this may seem like just a small thing, but you got to remember, a single like can turn into a 1 million person movement. And when we can take a movement to some of the world's largest companies, we can say, look, millions of people are asking this. These people are asking you. I think we should set up a meeting because I got a way we can create change. And this has worked. We've created partnerships with some of the world's largest companies. We work with multi-billion-dollar companies who, when they saw a consumer demand, we gave them an option. We have a way that you can have a genuine impact. Your consumers will be proud of, your staff, your employees will be proud of. We have a way that you can be a part of stopping ocean plastic, with the heart of it being that we're improving people's lives. And honestly, there's a split. There are some companies that will fully say, I don't care about a social impact. I just need the cheapest product possible. And I've been amazed with the other side of companies that get that the future is competing on social good. The future is consumers wanting every dollar you spend to be a vote of confidence. Because really, every purchase you make is a vote for a company and a vote for how that product was made. And consumer trends are changing. Millennials are changing the way giant corporations are planning for the future because millennials are looking to make an impact. And this has been an amazing thing that we've been able to do. So the plastic that we can either go directly into products. It can be made of social plastic, where you can know that this product helped improve a life and help stop ocean plastic. But we've also looked at ways, again, how do we scale? How do we have so much recycling that every piece of plastic gets picked up? One of the first products that we introduced was what we call an offset model. They had recycled plastic bottles to prevent the water bottles from being used as a reusable driver's water bottle. And every bottle came with the pledge that it would stop 2 kilos of plastic from entering the ocean through our program. So this program stopped over 2 million pounds of plastic from entering the ocean. And this really became the first of an offset pledge where we realized that in addition to using our plastic, companies could become plastic neutral. Products could be plastic neutral, whether it's our plastic or just this product pledge to remove plastic from the environment. And people can even be plastic neutral, where we have programs where someone can offset their own plastic footprint, where companies can offset their plastic footprint. And we continue to look at how can we drive value to scale this around the world. We've just created a partnership with Henkel, where we create a model where it's not just the recycling and the offsets, but we can have these companies behind the entire global expansion. So just last week, we opened Henkel's newest location in Haiti. And again, we continue to expand. How can a community benefit from this? So in addition from buying and committing to the plastic, in addition from just setting up these centers where we can train and empower entrepreneurs to become recyclers, we've started to install solar lighting along with the community centers and seating for the public. So again, this isn't just recycling, this is a community initiative where students who don't have lights at home can do their homework in this community because we now have solar lighting and we now have ways that whatever we're earning or whatever we're offering can be earned through recycling. And this is something that we can now scale globally. And this is something that has been working incredibly well. And, just really to bring it home where it's not even about us, it's not about our clients, it's not about the consumers. When we look at some of the stories of how does it impact real people's lives, there's really 2 examples when the last time I was in Haiti when we're asking just how has recycling benefited your life. The first was just a simple story of when you see someone explain that because I recycle, my daughters go to school. And this is so important because in so many countries, the boys go to school, they handpick who goes. But when we can have that basic income go to a point that a family can afford for every child to go to school, that can be life-changing. And really one of the most heartfelt things that really touched me, there was a young man in his 20s, and again, we asked, how is recycling changed your life? And he's just holding back tears, said with the most proud expression ever, now that I recycle, I can afford shoes. And that is something that just absolutely floored me, because as much as I'm trying to solve these problems and work on it, I could never understand what that means. I could never even attempt to know. And this really just goes in our eyes to why every community that we empower, we set up local people to run the program. We empower local entrepreneurs. It's not us really doing anything. It's just a program to empower people to create change through recycling, knowing their own culture, their own language, and really just adapting it. And this is how we're scaling everywhere around the world. And, on my final note that I just want to go before we go into our Q&A, one of the biggest reasons that I am just so optimistic about the future of the planet is that we often look at giant corporations as just big evil entities. And, I'm not going to go into who's good, who's bad, whatever. But what I've seen in these giant companies, they are companies with products, but they're also people. And we can work with companies with hundreds of thousands of employees. And really it just takes 5 people in those companies that get together and say, I want to create a change that I'm proud of. So when we get introduced, it's not even a company buying. It's usually a group of 5 people that have gotten together and said, I would be more proud of my job if we were partnered with you. And it's been amazing to see that those 5 people can completely change the way companies have supply chains, completely change the way they run. And it's just amazing because it really opens that door that anyone who wants to change the world and have purpose for a living, you can create a social enterprise, which is not an easy thing to do. You can join an existing company of good, but we really don't have enough of them on the planet. But what I've found is you can really convert any organization into a force of good. And it just takes a handful of people. And this is really where we scale around the world, by partnering and inspiring people to just become a force of good. And then we just become a conduit for others to do good. And that's really what we're designing. The world's largest conduit to stop ocean plastic. And we welcome any help and any support and any partners to be a part of that piece. And that's how we plan on changing the world. So thank you. And then I think we'll move into question and answer.